My name is Ramesh Ramsahoye and I'm a lecturer at PCI College. I'd like to share a few thoughts with you on the value of getting in touch with your creativity during the lockdown. These are unusual conditions that we all find ourselves in, and they bring with them some real challenges in terms of looking after our mental health. Our movements are restricted, our choices more limited than before, our world shrunk down to our domestic environments and local area. This doesn't sit easily with a lot of people. Some have found a way to work from home, but that is by no means everyone. And whilst keeping in touch with loved ones over the phone and the internet can both occupy us and lift our spirits, many of us are looking for new ways to pass the time. The skies are blue again, and in the non-doing and non-happening of a world that has slowed down to what seems to be a snail's pace compared to the rat race that preceded this strange epoch, we all sense, in a new way, the passage of time. Along with this recognition of time unfolding comes the pressure to fill it with something meaningful, something worthwhile. It is not uncommon to experience a pervading sense of boredom and emptiness. The psychologist Viktor Frankl called this experience the existential vacuum. We realise that the precious time we have is ours alone to fill, and that what happens depends upon our capacity not just so much for action, but for inventiveness, for creativity. By creativity, I mean any activity at all in which we produce something of value. It might be a drawing or a painting, but I'm not just talking about traditional forms of art. We can express our creativity in any activity that involves imagination and effort. It could be a new arrangement for the garden or something as humble as baking a cake. I passionately believe that all people, without exception, have creative ability and talent. Some people have found new ways to express this ability, but in my work as an art teacher and counsellor, I've noticed that far too many people, fairly early on in life, give up on the idea that they have any sort of ability in this area. I'm no good at art, they might say. It is true that some people are born with a natural aptitude for drawing and conventional forms of art making. This painting, The First Communion by Picasso, was painted by the artist when he was just 14 years old. From how he has captured the shimmering light on the girl's diaphanous dress, to the emotional realism in the expressions of the figures, it really is quite incredible. We can't all be Picassos, but my point here is that we really don't need to be in order to produce good art. In fact, Picasso himself quickly realised that just representing the world as it appears is actually a rather limited venture. He moved on to experiment with novel ways of expressing emotions, ideas and states of being. There are also forms of art which do not rely upon our technical skill or draftsmanship. In abstract painting, for instance, arrangements of colour and shape are admired for their intrinsic beauty. A good way to understand this type of beauty is to think of a sunset. A natural spectacle that is universally recognised as beautiful and wondrous. A painting by the American abstract painter Mark Rothko captures something of this sort of experience and works upon the senses in a similar way, using pleasing configurations of form and colour. You could easily do something like this with any large surface and a roller. The impact would be just as special, and it would also be yours. We can also use paint in interesting and dynamic ways, like the British painter Howard Hodgkin, whose paintings are like recordings of the artist's gestures and impulses. We can see how colours overlap one another, how the brush has been dragged across the surface, and sense the feelings of all these movements of life, and the delight in pure sensation. Works like this return us to a state of feeling and spontaneous joy that the process of making uniquely gives to us. A marvelling at colour itself, and a realisation of how our sensations can find form and expression. Feelings that we may not have experienced since the days of our first tentative efforts. Collage too allows us to arrange objects and cut paper and images into exciting new configurations. These might be childlike creations full of poetry, as in Juan Miro's playful compositions, or satirical commentaries on modern consumerism, like in this collage by the pop artist Richard Hamilton. There really is no limit to what we can make, taking inspiration and using materials from our immediate environment. All you need is a pencil or some disused papers and fabrics. Remember that the most beautiful drawings are often not the most perfect. They do not just show what the artist sees. They record the artist's struggle to represent what they see. They are often unresolved. Like in this charming picture of a lady by Rembrandt. 40,000 years ago, deep within the bowels of the earth, our earliest ancestors gathered together in society and smeared pigment upon the ceilings of caves, painting the animals they depended upon for survival with reverence and awe. The best examples at Lascaux in France and Altamira in Spain are the first ever paintings made by human beings. Anatomically modern humans had been around for 160,000 years without, it seems, producing anything like this. A new light had dawned in the mind of man. These first examples of symbolic representation mark the beginning of what we call civilization. Like us today under lockdown, our ancestors felt the unease of the existential vacuum, and their response was to create, to find a way to express what it is to be human. It is my sincere belief that this could also be a remedy for our time. So, what are you waiting for?